Following in Tesla's footsteps, we've got two other American EV startup companies, and today they're going head to head. On one side, we've got the Rivian R1S, the familiar, boxy, outdoorsy SUV with kid-friendly styling, but mega performance backing it up. And it's going up against this thing, the brand new Lucid Gravity, and they call it an SUV, but if you look at it, if it had a pair of sliding doors on it, we all know what it is. It's got monumental performance of its own, and we can't wait to see what it does. These two American upstarts have both developed incredible vehicles, but there can only be one winner. And to find out which one comes out on top, you know the drill. We're gonna go over these interiors, cargo areas, technology, see how they drive, see how fast they charge, and of course, they've both been on the world famous Edmunds EV range test to see just how far they can go. Lots to cover, I can't wait. This one's gonna be a doozy. Let's get started. We're Edmunds, and we test hundreds of cars each year on the road and at our private track, so you get the most trusted reviews. If you want to know which car, truck, or SUV is the best, then stick with us. Oh, time to start? I was just getting comfy. This is a Lucid Gravity Grand Touring, the only trim that's currently on sale, and it's got a mix of materials that you can choose from, like synthetic or real leathers, but this one, it has come with the luxury package for $4,200, so we've got Napa leather on the seats, we've got seat ventilation, massage, and a few other features that we're going to get into in the back seat. Now, for the most part, we like the way that these seats are. They're pretty comfortable, but they have really excellent massage. It feels like real kneaders and not just air bladders that inflate and deflate, so kudos to Lucid for that. The materials though, it's harder to give them a pass because there's kind of a mix of high and low. There are parts of this that feel really good. For example, the upholstery on the seats is awesome. This wood trim is great. This little textured fabric right here, we also really like, but there are other parts that just end up feeling really cheap. Like this tray right here is kind of very plasticky. This thing is really hard to move for no reason, but the worst part are these switches on the steering wheel that don't work great. There are some problems with comfort though here in the front seat, starting with this glass roof. Now I know that it looks great, but it has a problem with allowing too much heat and sunlight into the cabin, and Lucid knows this because it comes with a little bundle with sunshades for the glass here and also in the back. The problem is though, they're a little bit weird to install, and to use the ones in the front, you actually have to tuck part of it under the visor, which means that if you're using the sunshade, you can't also put the visor down. It's a very, very inelegant solution in a car that costs over $6 figures. The other problem is that if you want to get cool quickly, these ventilated seats, they do work great, which is good, but these vents, they are kind of weirdly positioned. This one is blocked by about half of this screen, so you don't get good airflow. And this one, if you want to actually aim it towards you, it clicks in and actually blocks all air before it makes it, so it ends up shooting the air right about here. Air circulation was a problem that we also had in our Lucid Air. You had to crank the fan speed up to like 8 or 9 out of 10 to really feel anything, and it makes cooling down on a hot day like this hard, which means I'm sweating. This second screen down here, it's a lot more usable than the one that was in the Lucid Air. The orientation is better. If you're going to put climate controls in a screen, this is a pretty good way to do it. Everything is laid out super logically and easy to use. Now this screen up here is actually over 30 inches long, and it goes all the way from the driver to the middle of the vehicle. Pretty high resolution and responsive as well. One thing I do like about this infotainment system is the native navigation. Lucid does a pretty good job of this because it really helps you find charging stations. This vehicle comes with an NACS charge port and has access to Tesla's supercharging network, but not all of the stations. So if you look one up on your phone, it might actually lead you to one that you don't have access to. Use the screen for that. It's very convenient and gives you real-time data on how many stalls are available at third-party chargers. The one thing the system is missing though is Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. Lucid says that it's coming. We asked them when, and they said This top screen here, the touchscreen elements go all the way over here to the left, and I actually really like this quick access panel over here. It lets you control things like the windshield wipers, the headlights, and whether you need to use the defrosters. You can even open the front or the lift gate quickly. Great there. And a lot of the other controls, they're also surfaced rather easily. The biggest problem I have though with this control scheme are these touch sensitive controls here on the steering wheel. Now these little lines make it seem like there are little indents to let you know where you are in the controls, but there aren't. They're just completely smooth, and they're also unlabeled. So depending on what you have up on the screens, they actually do different things. And the other problem is they don't really register button press as well. The usual problem with these touch sensitive controls is you hit them on accident. The problem here is you hit them and then nothing happens. When it comes to charging options, you are well covered here in the Lucid though. You have 2 wireless charging pads up here for your phone, and also a pair of USB-C ports in the bin that can charge it up to 100 watts, and that is enough to juice up a MacBook Pro. When it comes to small item storage, things are pretty good here in the Lucid. You get pretty good sized door pockets on both sides. And this center bin, this is actually just one really large bin. So if you slide all this stuff out of the way and open the lid, as you can see, just a ton of space down here. Now the problem is things can actually roll up under here, and when they do, you won't be able to see, and it'll be kind of tough to find them. Now the cup holders are here in this little shelf that slides back, but they're not very big. They have absolutely zero chance of fitting our water bottle, but they will fit our cup if you give it a little bit of persuasion. Oh, and it's worth mentioning that the Lucid also has a glove box, which you open via the screen, because there is another vehicle here that does not. These are super convenient, way better than the ones you're going to get on a plane. And speaking of convenient, if you're in the market for any new car, EV, SUV, truck, van, basically anything with 4 wheels, check out the links in the description. They'll take you to Edmunds, where we'll show you all the info you need and even help you find the best price. The second row of this vehicle is absolutely enormous. As you can tell, tons of legroom, tons of headroom, and this second row also comes with a power adjustment, but when you use it, it makes this very disconcerting noise that I haven't really heard in any kind of vehicle before. There is a screen here so you can control the climate controls. These seats are heated as well on the outsides, and there's also 2 USB charging ports and cup holders here if you fold this down. Now, materials, they do match what you're getting up front, but I actually kind of like them back here a little bit better because there's less touch points. So all the cheap stuff, you're actually not going to really interact with as much. But again, that seat moving thing, not a fan of that at all. Now, the Gravity, it is technically a 3-row vehicle. It comes with an optional 3rd row for $2,900. And for that money, you're also going to get additional air vents, and you're also going to get added USB ports back there, and we would love to show them to you, but this car didn't come with a 3rd row, and that's unfortunate because on the first drive, our tester, they said that they thought the 3rd row was excellent, close to what you're getting in a minivan more than an SUV. There's that M word again, and we'd love to show you, but can't show you what we don't have. Oh, and when it comes to car seats, there's really wide door openings and pretty easily accessible latch anchors, although the flaps that cover them, they feel a little bit cheap, and it's a touch inelegant, again, for a car that costs this much. When it comes to comfort, there is one issue with this back seat though, and it has to do with this glass ceiling. This thing gets real hot. My head is baking. Now, I do like that you do get these powered sunshades over this, but to put a sunshade over this roof, you saw how weird it was to install in the front. Back here, it's even harder.
It's still down in the back.
Yeah, I know. I can't put it up unless I go in the trunk. Before we dive into the cargo area, we need to take a second to address something that we've been hinting at this whole time, and that is problems with the overall build quality and a lack of attention to detail. Now, we've already shown you the cheap controls on the steering wheel, the weird noise that it makes when you move the second row, like a DJ. The sunshades that feel like they're out of a car that costs half as much. Even the charge port, the gasket isn't sealed on right. So when I took this through a car wash, it got water in the charge port. And this rear lift gate, it makes a disconcerting noise when you close it. But the pièce de résistance is this: when you fold up the seat, you can see the guts of the car. And that is not something that you would ever see in a BMW or a Mercedes. These kinds of problems are emblematic with the issues that we first had when we tested and owned a Lucid Air.
Build quality has been an issue since we bought the car.
Yeah, it's just not built to the standard that you would expect when you're paying 6 figures for a vehicle.
Between the loose A-pillar trim and the squeaky steering wheel. It squeaks. Buttons that just had so much play in them, it just never quite felt like it matched the price tag.
Now the Gravity, it isn't quite that bad, and we have to note that 3 years later, the Air, after dozens of software of improvements and better build quality, has actually become quite a good vehicle.
3 years on, the Air is finally the car it always promised to be. At times it's been a painful journey, but Lucid now has a strong platform on which to build for the future.
Now we had hoped that the Gravity would build upon that improvement, but in many key ways, it hasn't. This just simply doesn't feel like a completely finished product, and it's definitely in need of more polish, both on the software side and with the things that you can touch. When it comes to cargo room, there is a lot of it. For 5-seat versions like this one, if you fold down the bench seat, you actually get about 120 cubic feet of cargo space, and that's as much as you're going to get in a Chevy Tahoe or a minivan. Now, also like a minivan, if you have a third row installed here, those seats will actually fold down into the underfloor storage, and that means that you'll get a nice flat cargo floor. The problem is though, without the third row installed, you've got this weird kind of gap between the cargo area and the second row where stuff is gonna fall and it's gonna be really hard to reach. In addition to the large cargo area back here, as we saw before, a pretty good sized frunk, and this cargo area actually has some pretty decent features as well. It's got releases for the second row back here, so you can drop the seats without having to walk around, and if you equip them, you can get up to 3 household outlets in this vehicle, one in the cargo area, one in the front, and one in the passenger compartment. Now, I really like these little cubbies on the side here. They have pretty good storage, but they also have these magnetized lids that come on and off in a really satisfying way. And that's just exemplary of how we feel about this vehicle. There are these little design touches that are great, and they obviously took someone a lot of time and thought to come up with. But then right after that, you run into something that was sort of not well designed, that's really annoying, and it's just a sort of roller coaster ride with this vehicle that just makes it less enjoyable than it should be in the end. What both of these EVs have in common is that they're properly fast. And I mean like way, way faster than they have any need to be, but that's kind of the appeal. And even though fast EVs are kind of expected these days, from behind the wheel, it still feels pretty crazy. And this thing doesn't just go, it also stops, especially if you equip the optional summer performance tire, and it also stops with great stability, and under hard braking, that gives you a lot of confidence. What really impresses me though about the Gravity is its handling. Driving it on our test track, I actually enjoyed it more in some ways than the Lucid Air, the company's lighter and smaller sedan that should be more athletic. But this thing, when you crank up the dial, the suspension stiffens, body roll basically gets eliminated, and you can really toss it into corners with a lot more verve than you're expecting. Now, this thing does share handling components with the Porsche 911, and I usually take those kind of things with a grain of salt, but this thing, the dynamics are so good that such comparison actually feels kind of warranted. However, these things, they're mostly going to live on the street, and the good news is that out here, it's also pretty wonderful to drive. The suspension is dialed in perfectly, the cabin is really quiet, and it's comfortable even over long trips. And it's mostly free, thankfully, of the squeaks and rattles that plagued our Lucid Air that was a part of our 1-year road test fleet. Now, you've got over 800 horsepower on tap, but thankfully, it's easy to dole that out in usable chunks. The throttle tuning is great, and you can accelerate smoothly from a stop without any issue. This thing also has variable ratio steering, which means that at low speed, it turns quicker, and that combined with the rear wheel steering makes it feel very maneuverable in tight spaces, so parking is a breeze. The driver aids are also way better than our early experiences with Lucid. The adaptive cruise control brakes and accelerates smoothly, and the lane keeping, it actually does this thing that I really like, where if you're passing, let's say, a big truck on the highway, it'll actually cheat you over in the lane a bit so it feels a bit safer, and that's a great feature to have. The surround view camera, also excellent with plenty of views and high resolution. From behind the wheel of the Gravity, it's clear that Lucid nailed the fundamentals. The ride, the braking, the handling, the powertrain tuning, those are all excellent, and it continues something that we enjoyed from the Lucid Air. Both Lucids were an absolute joy to drive from day one. It's just the rest of the car that has a little catching up to do. Now, I don't know how often you're going to use an integrated flashlight unless you go camping often, which more credit to you, but this speaks to the adventurous nature of the Rivian. The Gravity's vibe is more tech bro at a company retreat who's admiring a mountain out of a window. But the Rivian, this is the guy who's out there actually hiking up it. Hop into the R1S and you'll immediately notice that the materials and just the way everything is screwed together feels a step nicer than what you're getting in the Lucid. The design of it definitely leans into that rugged theme as well. Lots of reclaimed wood in here, and there's a little adventurous forever badge there in front of the passenger that's a bit corny. It makes it feel a bit like interior by North Face, but it does fit the rest of the vehicle, I'd have to say. Now overall, I do think these seats are a touch more comfortable, but they don't come with massage, so that kind of grades out into a tie. Now, small item storage, you don't get a glove box, but it kind of makes up for it with big door pockets, and under each seat here, you're actually getting these small storage cubbies to store little things. The center console bin though, it's not very big like you're getting in the Lucid, but you do get this nice open space down here, which would allow you to put a bag or a purse. Great to have that. The cup holders fold out here from the front, but they're also small. No chance at fitting in the water bottle, but the cup, once again, a-okay. Just like in the Lucid, basically all this vehicle's controls are going to live in the screen. And the big difference between these two infotainment systems is that this one will not offer Android Auto or Apple CarPlay at all. It's not coming via over-the-air update, so we're not waiting for it, but we do have here, we actually like quite a bit. The early versions of Rivian software have definitely improved, and they've added things like this quick access menu. So a lot of the vehicle functions that you're going to use often, you can get to rather easily. We also really dig these cell-shaded graphics here, and also this screen is, you know, to control a lot of the vehicle functions. Everything is very, very snappy, and we love how it looks. There's one big annoyance when it comes to the controls, and that is the climate controls. And it's not because this screen is bad. I actually think it's pretty good for adjusting all this stuff. It's the fact that to move the air vents around, you're going to have to do it through the screen, and that is really just the absolute most annoying way to do that. In the second and third rows, the air vents, they're more conventional. They should have just done that up here in the front as well. One other tech feature that's worth highlighting, if you reach under here, you can actually pull out this big Bluetooth speaker that you can connect your phone to, and this will liven up any campsite. The native navigation, also pretty good. Same thing about the charging stations. Make sure you're looking at those through the screen and not on your phone, so you don't end up at a supercharger you can't access. This is a 2025 version of the Rivian, so therefore it still has a regular CCS port, but it comes with an adapter, so you can plug in at a Tesla station with no problem. And finally, since we've pointed out all the other rugged things in this interior, on the screen here, we can also go into something called camping mode. And this actually allows you to turn down the lights of the vehicle on the exterior to be polite, but you can also do things like turn on the outlets, or you can even use the air suspension to level it out. So let's say you're at a campsite, you want to camp and sleep in the back, you can actually park on a little bit of an incline, and the air suspension will level you out so you can get some nice Z's. And to keep all those devices charged up, 2 USB ports here in the center bin, 2 wireless charging pads, and at least 2 USB ports in every row. The second row of the R1S is pretty roomy. It's just nowhere near as expansive as the one in the Gravity, but it's plenty big enough for adult passengers. It isn't powered though, so if you want to move forward and back, you're going to have to do so the old-fashioned way, but I still think that sounds better than what we had in the Lucid. When it comes to comfort though, there is one thing definitely worth mentioning, is that even though the R1S also has a big glass roof, you can actually change the opacity of it. So there's a button in the screen up there, and when you press it, it changes it from clear to a bit gray, and that helps keep you a lot cooler if you're sitting in the cabin. Oh, and when it comes to car seats, it's going to be pretty easy to fit one into the Rivian, even a rear-facing one. I think the lower latch anchors are actually a touch easier to access, so no problems there. Back here, you're also getting a small screen to control a bunch of different functions, just like in the Gravity. So you can turn on and off the heated seats on the second and third rows. You can also adjust some of the climate settings, but it is a little bit weird. So if you're doing the second row seats here, you can change the temperature, you can change where the air is coming out of, but you can't actually change the fan speed. But when you go to the third row, you can't change the temperature, but you can change the fan speed. So when I turn the fans up, I can hear them whirring in the back, but no change here in the second row. Oh, and by the way, just like in the Gravity, these vents are here. Both of these vehicles should really have the vents in the ceiling, because when they're in the ceiling, they're much better for children, especially those in car seats. The R1S, just like the Gravity, doesn't offer captain's chair. So to get back there, you're gonna have to release the seat via this button up here and then climb in. Now these doors, they aren't as absurdly wide as those in the Lucid, so climbing back is a bit of a squeeze. Once you're back here, it might look a little bit tight, but there's actually a touch more room than there would appear to be. And that's because there's a ton of room actually under these seats to put your feet. That's something that you don't really think of very often, but it's really important for third row comfort. And the other thing too about the third row, the air vents are actually in a much better position. They're up here instead of down here by your legs like they are in the second row. Now to access your charging and storage in the third row, you just flip up this little armrest, and in front of it you get a little cup holder. Not much else you would want back here except for a little bit more room. And I wish that this rear window, it also had the cool feature that the big window did. Instead, your head's just gonna get real hot. The Rivian does have less cargo area than the Gravity, but that's kind of what you'd expect given the Gravity's shape. But we do like what it has back here. It's got a really big underfloor storage compartment here and a pretty good sized frunk as well. But where it has the Gravity beat is when it comes to features. You have releases here for the second row seats, just like in the Gravity, but you also have these two panels here, one that hides a household outlet and a 12-volt outlet that comes standard, and another one that hides a built-in air compressor, yet another feature that hints at this vehicle's rugged nature. If we have one complaint about the cargo area, it's from folding the third row seats though. You have to do that manually via these latches, but the other problem is there's no straps or anything else like that. So if you actually want to put them back up, you've got to move the second row forward, flip the latch again, push the seats up, and that gets real annoying real fast if you're going to use this cargo area a lot. Now they tell me that this thing, despite appearances, it's gonna be even quicker than the Lucid. So once again, I had to try it out for myself. Please launch responsibly. That's funny. Oh my God. This thing launches with absolute violence, 0 to 60 miles an hour in under 3 seconds in something this big. That is supercar speed in a gigantic electric SUV. And even though when you turn on the launch control and put in sport mode, the air suspension lowers all the way, you're still sitting pretty high up, so it's a bumpy ride and it feels a bit out of control. The R1S definitely rides more like a traditional truck/SUV. It's a bit bouncy when you go down the road. The Gravity, it really drives like a car, but this thing, it's got a lot of body roll when you turn it into corners, although unexpectedly, it's very stable under braking, and I didn't anticipate that. This is also definitely the more off-road capable of this pair. Both of them have air suspensions that can raise up, but the R1S has an off-road package that comes with an all-terrain tire that the Gravity doesn't offer. And when you lift this thing all the way up, you get almost 15 inches of ground clearance, while the Gravity, that tops out at just under 10. On the road, this thing is also pretty great. It's easy to start and stop smoothly. The problem is just that it's going up against the Gravity, which is one of the best riding vehicles that I've driven all year. In comparison, this thing, it does feel a bit floaty and a bit bouncy, especially on the highway, and the cabin is noticeably noisier as well. Now these two vehicles, they have a lot of the same safety equipment and features like blind spot monitors in the cluster, adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, blah, blah, blah. But I would say that the execution here in the Rivian is just a touch better. Its automatic lane changes work better, and the surround view camera system, it's also excellent. What it does have that the Lucid doesn't is a hands-free driving system, and it works pretty well when it can stay on. It does turn off unexpectedly at points, kind of like the early versions of Blue Cruise and Super Cruise, so that will probably improve over time as Rivian has a chance to refine it. What is exciting though is that coming to this vehicle next year, or so they say, is a hands-free and eyes-free driving system, so a level 3 system that will match what is currently offered only by Mercedes. We don't know how that's going to shake out yet, so stay tuned for more details. Those details were also going to include pricing, because for now, that hands-free system, it's actually free through the end of 2025, but they are going to start charging for it, just as everyone else with a hands-free system does. All in all, we like the R1S a lot, and it's interesting comparing these two vehicles because this is kind of where I think Lucid wants to end up with the Gravity. It's just a bit more well put together, the software is more refined, and it's easier to live with in that way day to day. And that's true when you go up and down the R1S lineup, because the dual motor we had in earlier, even though it's at the bottom of the range, it felt great too. Now, speaking of range, Both of these vehicles took a turn on our range test, and as a reminder, we run our test at a 60-40 city highway split and aim for an average speed of 40 miles an hour to simulate real-world conditions. And unfortunately, both vehicles came up short of their EPA estimates, though one was much shorter than the other. The Gravity covered 400 miles on the dot, about 11% short of the estimated 450. But what about the R1S? The Rivian, it covered 361 miles, just under 3% below its 371-mile estimate. We do have to say that both vehicles will certainly offer enough range to alleviate range anxiety for the most part. Now, in addition to testing range, we also test charging, and we use that data along with how efficiently each vehicle uses its energy to come up with a miles per hour measure, but instead of speed, it's how much range you're adding back into the battery. The Gravity, it doesn't just go further, it's also much more efficient. Add on the fact that it charges much faster and has a smaller battery, and the Lucid absolutely crushes the Rivian in our measurement. So, while it may have fallen short of its estimated range, we still came away from these tests really impressed by the Gravity. The numbers it put up moved it into the top 10 of both our range and charging leaderboards, and that's something that no other vehicle can claim. Now, before we get into value and declare our winner, if you have any questions about either of these vehicles, or you think that there's anything else that we missed, or if there are other videos you want to see us do in the future, please let us know in the comments below. We do read them all, I swear. And if you found this video helpful or enjoyable, or even if you haven't, please toss us a like and subscribe. They go a long way towards helping us make more of them. For now, this Grand Touring trim is the only version of the Gravity that you can buy. It starts at just under $100,000, but the as-listed price of the vehicle that we have here, it's closer to $113,000, and if you add on a third row and a couple other options packages, it can hit $120,000 without too much trouble. However, later this year, Lucid is going to introduce a more affordable version of the Gravity for around $80,000, and we think that that will be the one to get because these lower trim levels of Lucid's vehicles, they still offer plenty of performance and range, but since they're built later on down the line, they're usually not plagued by the same quality issues, so you might end up getting a cheaper vehicle that will feel better overall. But at its current price, with all of those things that we pointed out earlier and the general sense of just incompleteness that you get with the Gravity, it's tough to swallow. And on top of that, Lucid is also having you pay for things that you can't even get yet. So this vehicle comes with the almost $7,000 Dream Drive 2 Pro package, and that is going to include future features like a hands-free driving system that you don't get yet. While we appreciate that Lucid isn't releasing that type of feature until it's ready, because open testing stuff like that on public roads is definitely not the right way to go, it still feels a little bit bad to be paying for things that haven't arrived yet. It's a bit like buying a burger and being told the pickles are gonna arrive next week. Now, here in the R1S, unlike the Gravity, you can get this thing in a bunch of versions already. The one that we have here today, though, it is a tri-motor with an as-tested price of around $111,000. And even though it feels more worth that money than the Lucid does, this is still not the one that we would choose. We would actually say you should probably go down to a dual-motor version. And yes, you'll lose some performance, but you'll gain range and you'll save money on the sticker price. However, the problem that both of these vehicles face at this price is that for about 40 grand less, you can get basically fully loaded versions of the Hyundai Ioniq 9 and the Kia EV9, and both of those provide compelling alternatives for those shopping for an EV with 3 rows. While those vehicles don't offer the same level of performance that you're getting here, they do have fantastic interiors, plenty of range, and super fast charging speeds. And if you want more information on either of those vehicles, we shot a comparison with the two of them recently that you can check out here. All right, now it's time to check out the rating scores. The Rivian enjoyed an advantage in both technology and cargo, but its biggest win comes in value, as we just highlighted. This thing feels a step beyond the Lucid when it comes to build quality and attention to detail, especially on its interior. The Lucid strikes back with a win on efficiency and an out-of-this-world driving score. If how something feels from behind the wheel and driving dynamics are important for you, that might make the Lucid the winner here by default. Now, if we look at the overall rating, it's a tie. And while that might feel like a very unsatisfying result at the outset, to us, it feels fair for a couple of reasons. Firstly, that's really an excellent score in our rating system and reflective of the fact that we like things about both vehicles quite a bit. And secondly, because it reflects where these vehicles are in their respective journeys. The Rivian feels like a finished product, and when I polled our staff, it was unanimously the one that we would put into our driveways, and that's why it's our winner here today. There are no caveats when it comes to its build quality, and it's still a very high-performing, super fun, very stylish vehicle at the end of the day. But we still can't deny the potential of the Lucid. This is a right now score for this vehicle. And with some software updates and minor fixes, it could actually jump ahead of the Rivian in overall score without too much trouble. And if it can follow the development track that the Air took, its overall rating will rise, because these are living scores and they are reflective of the state of the vehicle at the time that we get it. The one that we got, unfortunately, it has a little bit of a way to go, but those later on versions, I can see them improving quite a bit. So today, the answer is the R1S, but tomorrow, who knows? Maybe the next time we run this test, the Lucid will have progressed enough that it will have enough escape velocity to overcome its own gravity. And that's something that we'll find out together. Thanks for watching.